Okay, now I'm recording it. Okay, so the reason why I have chosen this wine because it's a very tough and very difficult wine. From the start, it says rosé. Then we have this sort of a is he a rosé or is he white or is he an orange wine? What sort of transvestile wine is this? You know what I mean? So if a wine like this falls into the exam, you've got to think this wine wasn't chosen because of its terroir or because of its textbook descriptors. It was chosen probably because they want you to know whether I'm able to access the quality and the winemaking influences. This is a wine all made by winemaking influences. This is the most important thing that we can understand. We have Guy, Pedro, and joining us right now. So if you face a difficult wine, don't get yourself desperate. Just try to do what you can towards color, nose, towards flavor profile, and pay attention, try to listen to the wine. And that's what we're going to be doing right now. So the first thing is the color. For me, it's sort of a medium color. You know, there is some color to it. It's not deep. And for white wine, deep for me means you know, bottle aging, or perhaps a sweet wine like a Sauternes, like a Botrytis infected wine, and that's definitely not it. But it's not a pale wine like Chablis, like a Sauvignon Blanc from Loire or New Zealand. So that's definitely not a very young wine by the color, and not a Botrytis or wine infected. So I would stay on medium in terms of intensity. And then when we go to color, again, don't waste your time in terms of what color is it. So it's definitely not lemon. However, definitely not gold. It's somewhere in between. And as the oxygen starts to interact with the wine, the color changes. So for me, it's going towards like a pink, like an orangey hint. That's what I get to the wine, some sort of orangey. Maybe even some, I wouldn't dare to say brownish because it's not oxidated, but it's something between amber and something in between orange hint. So it's definitely between yellow going towards orange, yellow going towards amber. So it's definitely not pink, but it's somehow pinkish. Could you be losing a color, a point here? Yes, you could. But the main thing is here is that you need to inform the examiner that you do realize that it's not lemon, that it's definitely not gold. It's somewhere in between amber, but then you say, Thiago, you said that the intensity is medium. Can it be medium amber? Well, if it was medium amber, definitely would have more color to it. And then if you say, well, Thiago, is it medium orange? So perhaps you'll be more orange to it. So it's quite confusing. I would say, so it's probably medium, probably like lemon color with some amber hinge, some pink hinge, some orange hinge. That tells the examiner that you are paying attention to the wine. You are listening to the wine, or you're being very careful to the wine. Because if they have chosen a difficult wine like this, they want to see how careful you are in terms of making your analysis. And that's very important, okay? And there is a purpose to it. So be very careful how you express the wine, okay? That's very, very important. Again, if you have a question, place the question, and then later on, we can address all the questions. And then we go to the nose. You're like, okay, it's not aromatic at all. Like it's not Sauvignon Blanc, it's not Riesling, but it's not a very neutral variety. I do get some floral. I do get some hints of oak, sort of hints of honey, hints of sweet spices to it. There is some floral, like honeysuckle, again, some floral notes, white flowers. There's a little bit of a white peaches to it. So there's a hint of tropicalness that is melt into this spicy, sweet spicy that comes from oak. And you should be able to note that there is oak to this wine. So when we have tasted the wine last week, we did get some notes that express some honey in a very tertiary way. And that express honey or sweet spices coming from oak, not coming from tertiary development, bottle development, not at all. So that's very important for you to understand. The intensity is kind of medium, concentrated. There is a little bit of flower. There's a little bit of delicacy towards primary fruit. Flower, white flowers, peach, a little bit of citrusy to it, a little bit of nectarine, and then you get like that secondary that is coming from oak. Spice notes. So I would go for honey, honeysuckle, a little bit of cinnamon. I would never go to coconut. There is a slightly hint that maybe you could say, well, there is some tropicalness coming, not coming from mango, but maybe a little bit of white melons sort of thing. So you do get this sort of intensity, but be careful, because when you express that, don't let the examiner think that you are saying that this wine is coming from a warm climate. It's definitely not coming from warm climate. You should be able to realize on the nose that the nose is very focused, it's very concentrated. You get this white fruit, a little bit of tropical fruit, flowers, tropical flowers, and you do get this oak note. You should point that out. So if you still have the wine that we tasted last week, if you're using Caravan, try to put one next to the other, and you should realize this sort of sweetness, oak versus tertiary aromas. Okay, you should be able to understand that, at least at diploma level. And if you're not, try to find two wines that you could confuse yourselves. Okay, so this is a wine that is developing. Okay, it's not tertiary. It's not fully developed. It's developing. It's getting there. It's going somewhere. That's the first thing that you should realize. Okay, that's where we are at the moment in terms of nose. And then if you see a wine like this, you should think, perhaps the grape variety has some color to it. Perhaps it was made in a sort of an unprotective way, and the brownish or the color is coming from the browning and somehow oxidative to the wine. So it wasn't very protective. Or maybe it had some skin contact. Those are the sort of things that should be coming to your mind. And then you get to the nose, and then you realize, well, it's not Sauvignon Blanc, it's not Riesling. Could it be Chardonnay? Or could it be a variety that is not very aromatic? It could be. And what are those varieties? Well, definitely not Chenin Blanc. Definitely could be some Pinot Blanc. It could be some Pinot Grigio. It could be Chardonnay. What else could it be? You know, start thinking what sort of variety that it could be. Does Gewürztraminer has some color to the skin? Yes. Is it aromatic such as Gewürztraminer? Definitely not. So we start thinking, what sort of variety could it be? It's not aromatic, so it could not be Gewürztraminer. And then things, what sort of variety could be made in a style where a new oak could be used, even though if it's only 20% or 30%, what sort of variety does accept oak that does not overpower the wine? And this sort of a critical thinking is very important, because on a question related to winemaking question, you should be able to go to address the variety and how the wine was made. So you start thinking as you're tasting the wine and smelling the wine, what could it be and where it could be coming from. So the aromas is saying no aromatic, use of oak, has some tropicalness to it, and is very focused. Okay, let's taste it. Wow, it's dry. There's no residual sugar to it. It's not off dry, first thing. And then you think, well, if I was thinking of Riesling, Riesling is often off dry. Could it be, are there dry Rieslings? There's plenty of dry Rieslings like Grand Cruz, you know, Grosses Gewachs, for example. Okay, so it's definitely a dry wine that is coming from a sort of a moderated climate, because cool climate wines usually have less body. And if they have less body, residual sugar is quite common to them. So it's a white wine that is very dry, bone dry. Acidity, it's high, really high acidity. So think again, if you did not have that impression, think again. You should still be salivating, okay? Or if you're not salivating, you have noticed on your tongue, in the middle tongue, the tanginess to it. You feel the sensation to the tongue of the acidity. Definitely not tannins. So if you thought about skin contact on a color, that this color could have come from the skin contact, one of the reasons why it's not an orange wine is because you cannot taste the tannins. I don't get any texture of tannins. I don't get any astringency from the tannins. Therefore, the skin contact wasn't long, if there was any. Okay, we don't know the wine. I mean, we do know the wine, but as tasting blind, all you can say is that if there was skin contact, it wasn't for a long time. It was only enough to extract a little bit of color. Okay. Alcohol levels. Before asking alcohol levels, I would go for body. How do you get body? You know, I get some fullness to them. I get some fullness. I get some texture, a little creaminess. So I would not say full body, but I would say medium, towards to medium plus. And I would definitely stay medium plus. And you could argue, Thiago, I think it's full body. And retasting again, I would say, you know, you're quite right on going towards full body. And to be honest, again, I think that full body, it's where it describes the wine, fills up your mouth. You got some creamy and texture and oily texture to it. So full body, it's more appropriated. And you do feel that the wine is dry, acidity it's coming, keeps on coming. Full body, and the alcohol, you feel the warmth at the back of your throat. So it can only be on the high side. So full body, lots of residual sugar, warm climate, all the sugar, not residual sugar, but all the sugar has been converted into alcohol, and then you get the oak giving more structure. Yes, so high alcohol, full body, yeah, that tells me either warm climate or moderate climate. And then you think, well, where around the world do I have this sort of fullness of the wine, full alcohol level on a white wine that is probably not coming from Chardonnay, and that I have this sort of a high acidity? You know, that's sometimes contradictory. You know, if you have this sort of a high acidity, sometimes you don't have this sort of a full body. So only moderate climate with high altitude, very specific places around the world gives you that sort of alcohol concentration, alcohol level with still high acidity. Those are two important points: high acidity, full body, high alcohol. Where do I get that? Definitely not Australia. Could it come from New Zealand? It could be coming from New Zealand. Yeah, that's you know, that could be it. Could it be coming from France? I maybe Alsace. Is this kind of a Alsace style? The new oak is not part of Alsace style. Could be coming from Germany. Yeah, we tasted a few from Germany, and the sort of winemaking techniques does not usually includes new oak barrels. But you know, there are people doing all trials all over the world. But you're still tasting the wine. You're still thinking in your mind, where could it be, or you know, what sort of wine is this? And then you get into flavor intensity, quite pronounced. There's a lot of flavor to it. You know, there's a good flavor from the oak, good concentration from the varietal character, sort of a peach, white peach, some sort of pears, a little bit of melon. So those fruits are there. So there's quite good concentration to it. And then flavor character, that's very important for you to address primary and secondary, you know, oak. You should notice oak. You have to write down the vanillin, the vanilla. You should write down a little bit of honey hints, a little bit of texture. This sort of observation, texture, creamy, oiliness, those are the clues, or those are the confirmation that some sort of a winemaking techniques have been used to the wine. You have to address that. Some wines, you could argue austerity, and that's important when you see the acidity that's very austere. It's important for you to address. So we start thinking where this oiliness and creaminess came from. Is it baltonnage? Definitely not. Could it be a little bit of a least contact? Yes, it could be a little bit of least contact. Is it coming from oak? Definitely. Some oak fermentation, perhaps, like a 10% of oak fermentation for delicate grape varieties such as Pinot Grigio. That could be key, and that could sometimes overpower the whole structure of the wine. So 10% is plenty to add to the wine this sort of a texture and creaminess to it. Then we go towards the finish, and that is the time where you should be tasting the wine for the second time, or maybe for the last and third time. What can you taste? I do taste a little bit of nectarine, a little bit of peach, a little bit of lemon, a little bit of melons, limes, and then I get this creaminess and oak flavors. They're in balance, but the oak is not, it's not highly integrated. And then you see that because of the amount of oak and the least contact that is in the same level of the fruit, it's not actually supporting the fruit, it's on the same level, pairing, competing. And then you can say, well, this producer he's quite ambitious. You know, he's trying to make a wine that will evolve with age, that can support the new French barrels. There is very good concentration of flavors. There is very good quality oak. There is good integration, we could say that. I would say quality, yeah, it's definitely not outstanding, but very, very good. And then you go towards bottle aging. Is it suitable for bottle aging? Think, you know, with that, we understand that is a grape variety that is not very expressive, but it's showing very good fruit, some purities there. There is very good oak, use of oak, sensible in a way, but very ambitious. That wine was made for aging. That wine was made to drink within like 3 to 4 years. So yes, it is suitable for bottle aging. There is good concentration. There is amazing acidity. There is good oak, and that could allow the wine to last. I'm not using the high alcohol to argument that the wine is suitable for aging. I'm using high acidity, purity of fruit, concentration of fruit, intensity of flavor profile, which we said was pronounced. And therefore, yes, it is suitable for oak, for aging. So very good, suitable for aging, for bottle aging. And then we go towards, where could it be? Where is it coming from? Let me see just if there is anyone trying to be part of it. No, we are all here. Okay, no one was logged out. then, you know, what could it be? Well, it's definitely there is some moderating towards the climate where we can get good concentration, warm days and cool nights, some cooling influences coming from altitude or either ocean. And then we think on the flavor profile, you know, Pinot Grigio, Pinot Blanc, those are the two sort of grape varieties that it could be because of the hint of color that we get on the wine, on the color. That is another argument that you could say, you know, Pinot Grigio is a variety that, you know, has some pinkish to the skin color. It could be Pinot Grigio, yeah. And then you think where Pinot Grigio is made. Then you think of Italy. That's the first country where you should think. And then when you're thinking on Pinot Grigio, well, it could come from anywhere in Italy. But, you know, Friuli, Venezia Giulia, is one of the regions where they have a good or high volume. And then you're like, oh, this is definitely not a wine that would be selling on supermarket for £5 or €8 sort of thing. This wine was made for a conscious quality consumer. This wine was made from a either single vineyard or a more quality area within Friuli, Venezia Giulia. And then you think, Collio Orientale is one of the DOCGs within Friuli. And then you're like, now I know that I could narrowing down because of the concentration of the fruit and the alcohol levels and the integration sort of the alcohol. Then, well, Collio Orientale is where you should be going towards. And then you're like, well, this is a sort of a producer, perhaps a small producer, not large scale, that, you know, he wants to make something special. And that's why he's trying to do something different. So that's why he's using oak barrels to the wine. But he's still able to preserve freshness. And he's doing such a way that the fruit is there, the oak, and the oak is giving some extra structure and level and depth of texture and flavors to the wine within balance. Who should be drinking it? Who is buying it? So every time you're tasting a wine, think who is buying it and when this person is buying it. Is that sort of wine that you should be open by the, you know, when you go on beach? No, definitely not, because of the oak structure. Is this sort of wine that you open in a pub and drink, you know, while you're having a conversation with your mates and having a laugh? Definitely not, because of the oak. You know, people should be paying attention to the oak and the concentration of the flavor and the purity of it. So that's the sort of wine that more conscious consumer, they will be paying attention to the wine, and therefore that demands some extra money. So if I was in UK, I would probably buy like for £15 or £18 on a specialized retail sort of thing. That's the sort of price band where I was expecting to pay for it. And in reais in Brazil, so you know how much you paid. So it's not that sort of an entry level Pinot Grigio that you get from 55 reais from Italy, high volume. Definitely not. So this is a premium wine. Premium wine demands high price and sort of a very good to either outstanding. I argue not outstanding because of integration. It could become outstanding in the future, but right now very good. So it's a premium wine going towards very good with still bottle aging and sort of ability, you know, ability to age. And then if you are sort of answering a question, and if you had the previous wine next to this wine and having to compare those two wines, your winemaking technique, the question would probably be like, what the winemaking techniques of both wines and how the winemaking techniques has defined the style of the wine. So the wine that we tasted last week, we could argue that that winemaking was sort of a very traditional winemaking, apply to the wine. So you should actually know that in Germany, using very large oak casks, old oak casks, it's common fermenting and aging on those wood casks. That's quite traditional to Germany. Okay. And that actually allows some oxygen, micro-oxygenation to the wine, which enhances the flavor and the aromatics of the wine. Whereas here, new oak was used either to add layers of flavors, aromatic intensity, but in such a clever and smart way where the oak does not overpower the fruit and the purity. So these are important things. Also, malolactic was aborted, was avoided, as malolactic would overpower the purity of the fruit and the delicacy of the fruit as well as. So that's very important for you, very important observation. So the texture is coming from oak, sort of vanilline, as opposed to malolactic. Also, the creaminess could be coming from least contact, like a short least contact in a very small quantity and for a short period of time. And I would dare to say like a 2 to 3 weeks maximum. We're avoiding malolactic. So those are the observations that you should be able to address. And maybe if you are comparing them, you could also say that while the wine one coming from Germany, the Weißburgunder, has this sort of a sweet notes, is coming from the development of the fruit and the bottle development, whereas the sort of a honey, sweet, spicy notes of the Lanuza wine, or the second wine, is more coming from the new oak as opposed to bottle development. And these are very important for you to point that out in the examination, because you have to show to the examiner that you understand how those two wines were made. And you are able to taste, you're able to access it as you are drinking the wine, or as you are tasting the wine. So if you don't mind, I would like to open for questions. And Hosanna, if you are able to point to moderate those questions, I'm happy for it. Or if you wanted to make questions direct to me, go for it.
Okay, I have one question. What are the main differences between Pinot Blanc and Pinot Grigio that you would point for us to recognize one another?
Okay. I'm not sure if I can put it together, those two, these difference, to be honest. What I can say is that usually in terms of style, Pinot Grigio in Italy, for example, tends to make a wine that is more lighter, that is more fresher, that is more in terms of volume and more of citrusy, okay? When we think of Pinot Blanc, we usually think on more on white fruit core, like those that we have found it. And usually Pinot Blanc, sometimes they could be making a sort of a off dry style with a little bit of a residual sugar. That's how we usually find Pinot Blanc, either in Germany or either in Alsace, okay? But with those three varieties, along with Pinot Noir, they have sort of a thin skin, and they usually quite sensitive to rot. So these are important things for you to know. They are quite sensitive to rot, and it's part of the DNA of the three varieties, along with Pinot Meunier, if you want to include that. Okay, and naturally high acidity. Okay, so it's quite hard to tell apart the difference. It's easier to tell apart the styles and where they're coming from, as opposed to the variety in itself.
Okay. Carlos said that he would go straight to Alsace Pinot Gris.
Pardon? If I was to compare with Alsace Pinot Gris?
Yes, Carlos wrote there that he would go straight to Alsace Pinot Gris.
Be
Why
very
wouldn't
careful.
you?
Be very careful when you think of Alsace, because Alsace is about creaminess. They could be making wines on 14% alcohol. Usually Alsace Pinot Gris, you would see some a little residual sugar. You would never be as bone dry as this wine. If you put the tip of your tongue to it, you see that the wine is bone dry. There is no residual sugar, and it's not common for Alsace to make really, really bone dry like this. There is usually a hint, a touch, creaminess. How can I say? The glycerol texture from sugar than the oak. And also, it's not common for a region like Alsace to be making wine that has this sort of um, new oak influence. It's not common for the Alsace. It could be, but it's not common. So try to think of a producer, a small production of someone that really wants to show off their terroir, that really wants to show off their origin. Also, when you think on Alsace, the integration of acidity in Alsace usually normally makes high acid wines. The intensity of the acidity and the way that the acidity binds into the wine is different. You see that the acidity is not highly or well integrated when compared to Alsace wines. So think again in terms of the acidity, think again in terms of texture, and think again in terms of residual sugar. Those are and the new oak. Those are the clues saying definitely not Alsace. Definitely not Alsace. Could be coming from New World. It could be coming from New Zealand. It could be coming from New Zealand. And if you say it's coming from a continental area within New Zealand, fresh influence from the ocean, and the use of new oak, it's typical of New World. You're right. You're right. You know, but it's very difficult to say Collio. Very difficult to say Italy. Tasting blind.
And also he said that Pinot Grigio has usually more body than this.
It depends on quality. I think the Pinot Grigio usually have less body than this. Okay. Usually Pinot Grigio, they have more of a light style, 13% alcohol, 12% alcohol, easy to drink when you think on Italy. Okay. High volume.
Mm-hmm.
It's come from Pinot, the north of Italy, right?
From Friuli.
Friuli, Venezia Giulia.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it a warm climate, a moderate climate?
It's not warm, but it's sort of a continental climate.
Okay.
And the continental climate, we
cold nights and warm days.
Yeah. And as we know, or thinking about Friuli and thinking about Colli Orientale, which is actually where the vines, 30 years old vines are planted. They're rolling hills, and some of them are 400 meters above sea level, which makes it sort of cooler during the day, cooler during the night, and could make sort of a more floral, more delicate wines, as opposed to the vineyards on the floor, which actually have more heat during the day. Okay.
It comes from the floor, the ground.
No, it's not coming from the floor. It's coming from the high altitude vines.
The high altitude. Okay.
And we can. It's difficult to tell, but we get some freshness to the wine. Okay. Although there is 14% alcohol, we get freshness from the fruit, from the flavors, and we get some freshness to the acidity, from the acidity as well as, okay? Generic Pinot Grigio, that is way less acidity than that. Sometimes the alcohol is 14%, but mainly the fruit concentration just not there. And we get a lot of good fruit concentration on the aromas, on the mid of the palate, on the length of the flavors. So it lasts quite a lot.
And the bitterness, I feel a small bitterness in the end, comes from the oak.
I wouldn't say bitterness. If you get a Torrontés, you get a lot more bitterness. But you can say that this bitterness or this phenolic grip could be coming from new oak. It could be coming from maybe some skin contact as well as. But when I saw the wine, the technical shit, it says that they press the whole bunch. So it's whole bench.
Okay.
So maybe this gripiness could be coming from the bench itself, which in some ways, for me, adds some freshness to the wine, as opposed to like a bitter taste in a negative way.
No, it's not.
Some freshness. So, how do you guys see? Any more questions? Questions?
Yeah, I think that's what everybody's saying, some astringency, astringency. I don't know how to say this word in English.
Yeah, astringency.
Astringency.
Yeah. Carlos is saying, but Pinot Grigio from New Zealand, or could it be confused with what other varieties in New Zealand? Pinot Grigio from North is more structured. I agree, because it's slightly more warm there. Pinot Grigio from Central, it's light, it's lighter. Well, not necessarily. Depends where you're saying. I felt some astringency, some bitterness, some greenness. Just be careful, because sometimes a whole bunch is used to give freshness to the wine, not necessarily greenness. When I'm learning that when you use words like a bitterness and greenness, sometimes it could be sort of a pejorative in a negative way. So you could say there is some gripness to it. So that's important for you to address. And whole bunch is used for freshness, for gripness, for structure, and purity as well as. Okay. Also, when you press a bunch, usually you need more time for pressing, because you have to go more delicate, and therefore skin contact, the juice is slightly more in contact with the skins, which therefore could justify the hint of the pigment of the wine, the color. Okay. And then Celia is saying, how about bottle aging? How long? Celia, difficult to say, but I think this is the start of the wine that maybe 40 years, 5 years, could be enough for the integration of the oak. So the oak would be less noticeable, and the fruit would be more binded to the flavors and the texture. Yeah, sort of 5 years. Guys, with regards to acidity, alcohol level, body, intensity, quality, conclusion, are we all in the same page? That's very important. Are we all in the same page? Because at the end of the day, these are where you make the points. Okay, at the end of the day, if you fucked up on the winemaking questions. If you fucked up on the variety character, you are able to pass when you say that the intensity was medium, the color intensity was medium, the intensity on the nose was medium to medium plus. Great, we are on the same page. Aromas characteristics, yeah, great. Primary and secondary, yeah. Developing sort of wine that you can write down. Okay, when you say it's dry wine, high acidity, high alcohol, full medium plus to full body, and full body is more appropriated. Flavor intensity, yeah, that's pronounced because of the oak. And then you say flavor intensity, flavor characteristics, primary and secondary. Other observations, oily and creaminess. Finish medium. Quality assessment, very good. And bottle aging, yes, it's suitable for bottle aging. So if you are able to spot that, you definitely passed. But the question is, can you address it all within 5 minutes? Train yourself in 5 minutes. So for the next tasting, next Thursday, next Tuesday, 8 p.m., open the bottle and do your assessment in 5 minutes. And then I do mine. And then we compare yours towards mine. And if you are able to do that in 5 minutes, amazing. You can make your points and you're ready to pass. Okay? That's the most important for me at the moment. Perfect. Any more questions?
Thiago, I'm having a hard time to pinpoint this acidity on high.
Okay.
I think the alcohol can get a bit confusing, like it's too warm. And I don't know, it makes you salivate as well.
Okay. All right. Remember when I said last week that a Chablis at 12 degrees Celsius or 30 degrees Celsius should taste like a Chablis. Slightly different, but you should be able to say Chablis. That is high acidity to this wine. Because the wine is not flat, because the wine is not flabby, there is freshness to the wine, and you are able to drink the first glass and the second glass. And as you open your mouth, you feel that it's still salivating. So yes, it's high acidity. Also remember, there is no tropicality to the wine, like a mangoes or like a pineapples, okay? So that's another clue of sort of a climatic zone that the wine is coming from. Yeah, I think high acidity is appropriated. Cool down this wine and, you know, ask your wife to give you a glass tomorrow morning of this wine. As you taste it and spit out, see how much you are able to salivate it. But you should get it as a high acid wine, okay? Or variety that has high acidity. Which is part of the DNA of Pinot Grigio, Pinot Blanc, as we saw last week, in Pinot Noir. It's part of the DNA of the variety. Even though the wine is quite warm at the moment, but you should be able to pick as a high acid. Train your palate to it.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions? Vini Santiago is not here, right? Just in the end.
Definitely not here. I think skin contact, if we associate the gripiness with the color more intense, we say that the pressing was more intense than usual for this sort of wine. No, I don't think that the pressing was harder. It's just that when you press whole bench, think of champagne. One of the reasons why they do whole bench is because they are trying to extract the best of the fruit, or just the best juice, the first juice, the best of the juice. That's the first thing. And you have to do that in a very delicate way, and that it's time consuming, and therefore there is more skin contact, okay? And that justifies the color of the wine. That's a very important thing. Also, those who do whole bunch pressing, they're going to extract better quality juice. Okay, that's one of the reasons why they also do that in Champagne. Okay, and and maybe you can associate the gripness to whole bunch. That is quite common for Pinot Noir as well as. And then I think an extra question from Mario. I think skin contact tech was used. Some producers was used. Some producers in Friuli use it. It's common to use in Friuli for high quality wine. That's correct. And Friuli as well. Carlos, then again, also I had the impression of medium acidity, but the mouth gets very warm. Look, guys, be very careful, okay, and get used to it. Train yourself tasting this wine high acidity, high acid on 60% degrees Celsius, 18% 18 degrees Celsius, and 25 degrees Celsius. Train your palate, train your perception, because on the examination day, we're gonna get the wines from the fridge. We're gonna pour them to you once you fill up the papers. Okay, you have to fill up your name, not your name, but the student number and all those things. You have to fill that up, and then we serve the wine, and then you start tasting. So for sparkling wine, I'm sure that when you get on the third sparkling wine, it's going to be slightly warmer like this. And then if you are unable to spot high acidity because of the temperature, you're fucked. You're done. So you have to train your palate. You have to train yourself high acidity, even though the temperature is warm. Think if the temperature is warm, the alcohol feels higher. A sweet wine feels sweeter and cloying, and the wine feels cloying, feels flat. But that wine is still fresh. That wine is not flat, it's not flabby. So think of that. And this sort of technique is important because you are going to face an examination where the wine is not going to be really cool or super cool or fresh as you'd like. Although you can raise your hand and say, can I have another sip? Can I have another pouring? And we will pouring, but October could be really hot. The classroom, it could be not as cool and fresh as we would like. So train yourself in every different condition. That's very, very important. Okay. So we have the technical sheet that someone has just sent it over to us, which is quite important. Yeah, high acidity 5.2, alcohol level 14%, bottle aging 2 months. 30 years old vines that can justify the concentration. 100 meters altitude, great. What else can we see? Winemaking, a whole bunch, soft pressed, yes. Inert gas, nitrogen, perfect. Fermentation at low temperature, aging stainless steel, and 6 months on the lease, and stainless steel tank for at least 6 months on the lease. A little part on French oak barrels, yeah, noticeable. What else? Harvest, hand harvest. Perfect. A whole bunch. Yeah, perfect. Pinot Grigio, 100%. Yeah. It's very important that you are able to taste everything that you can see on a tasting sheet, on the technical sheet. It's very important that you are able to taste that. Okay. Train and train and train and train and train. Don't just drink. Train. Okay. And train carefully, with attention. And once you train and train, you are able to spot more easily in the future. Okay, guys, I hope you have all enjoyed this tasting. If there is any final question, please do so. If you wanted to send a question later on, yeah, no problem. Do in a group, and I will see if Tiago can kindly put it together, this presentation on YouTube, so you can rewatch it later on today or tomorrow or anytime. Okay.
I have one more question, Thiago. Sorry. About the wine of last week, I was reading the bottle and I saw that it was medium dry. There was a sticker saying that was medium dry. I was not here in Bento because I could have taken to the lab to test and to understand it's written medium dry. And I was talking to the winemakers and they said that sometimes the acidity is so high that you think that is dry, but actually it's not dry. And so what is it considered? In the tasting is only
Yeah.
what you feel and not what, because I don't know what it was. Maybe it was wrong, the sticker. But usually, as it goes through the ministry, it shouldn't be, but.
I tasted that wine in front of you and I said dry. And I think that whoever was going to select the sample, the panel that selected the sample and all the people in the classroom that tasted the wines for the examination, if they do not come with the same tasting sheet and same tasting analysis, they would not select the wine. I had a conversation with someone, a master of wine in January in Rust. He is part of the awards team that deals with diploma. And he was telling me that every time they have to select a wine for the examination, it has to be a textbook. And all the people who taste blind the wine, if they don't have the same perception of the wine, they would not choose it. That's the first thing. I tasted the wine was really dry. And I said bone dry to you guys. And that is because the perception of acidity was perhaps so high, as you said, that you don't get the residual sugar. But what we did get on the wine was the glycerol texture. And the glycerol texture, because we said creamy, we said the fullness of the wine, the bottle development, but we did mention the creaminess of the body. And that perhaps comes from the lees and sometimes comes from the residual sugar, that glycerol texture. So I would consider that wine dry. And if there was any residual sugar, was that to give some sort of a texture to the wine, as opposed to the perception of sweetness to the wine. And when you think of Germany as a whole, the majority of the wines, sometimes they don't go on a test on a technical sheet saying 30 grams of sugar. They try to go on dry, off dry, medium dry, and they don't really pay attention on the residual sugar because they are more focused on the balance between acidity and between the residual sugar. But for me, that was dry. So, yeah. Okay. Carlos is saying 5.2 grams of acidity. Yeah, that's high. And here we're talking about acidity. We are not talking about pH. I don't know what is the pH of this wine, but sometimes the pH also helps or contributes for a high acidity as well as. And I think the pH here is quite low, like 3.2 maximum sort of thing, 3.3. That's where I think this wine is in terms of pH of this wine. Any more questions?
Yes, Danielle on the other row there. Thiago, can you talk a little bit more about glycerol texture?
Yeah.
Where it comes from?
That's important. Glycerol texture is always related to either alcohol, when you have a 14% alcohol like this. Alcohol has a texture. Well, if you have vodka at home, because vodka is usually very, very pure in terms of alcohol levels. And so get vodka and you feel texture to vodka. So it's important for you to learn how to understand texture coming from alcohol. Alcohol also feels or tastes sweeter. So like a 14% Barossa Shiraz tastes sweeter because of the alcohol, okay? But sometimes you have wines with low alcohol, but you do have some glycerol texture coming from sugar, like a Spätlese or Auslese wines from Germany, that you do get this sort of glycerol texture, but coming from sugar. So there are two ways that you can have this sort of textural and glycerol to the wine that could be coming from Hesido sugar too. And I think that this wine is coming, the texture is coming more from the alcohol because it's a very delicate grape variety as opposed to Hesido sugar. Okay. So when you think of sauternes, when you think of sweet wines, you think of texture coming from sugar. Okay, train that. If you have vodka at home, train it. You'll be able to perceive sugar and flavor on something that is quite neutral. The best thing for you to do a tasting of 4 different vodkas, and you see that within neutrality, there's flavor and a lot of different flavors. Do that. Go to any bar and say, what sort of vodka do you have? Give me 4 shots and put it in a wine glass. Don't swell, just taste it. Have a sip and you would notice, okay? Celia is saying, how the pH? Well, pH is an important thing. It's also part of the acidity. Sometimes you have wines that has high pH and low acidity and high acidity. So that's the sort of thing that you understand that the wine was corrected. The acidity, tartaric acidity was added to it. But sometimes you feel that the wine is coming from a cool climate and you feel that, you know, even though the alcohol could be quite high, but you feel that it has some sort of low pH attached to it towards freshness. And you get the freshness, the cool influence on the wine that leads you to think that, you know, the acidity is natural. The pH could be quite low. And for a white wine like this, I think 3.3 is sort of where it should be, okay? Sally is saying, how the pH? I don't know how to calculate between 3 to 4. And Carl is saying, for wine, it should be between 2.9 to 3.6. It could go all the way to 4, Carlos. Celia, the best thing for you to, I can't address it here, it's quite complicated, but the higher, the riper the fruits, the higher the pH, like a 3.5, 6 to 4. A cool climate, high acidity, usually 2.8, 2.9, to 3.3, for example. That's like a cool climate wine. But the best thing for you to do is try to find like a 4 or 5 wines that have different levels of pH and acidity and taste them. And pretty soon you will get wines from, let's think of Portugal, Alentejo. You get wines that on technical sheets say like you know, 5.6 acidity, and then you see the pH like 3.80 or 4, and then you go like, this acidity is definitely not natural. So you work that out, okay? But you know, if you are in doubt, go back and read the whole chapter on viticulture and on winemaking in terms of pH, or do some research. It's very important for you to understand how the pH affects the quality, but mainly the ageability of the wine. High pH wines can never age well. full stop. Okay. But it's difficult to taste pH. That's why I think the pH here is about 3.2, 3.3. That's where I should be at. Okay. Not higher than that. Guys, it's about 9:15. I can only thank you all for your time, for your attention. I hope you all have tasted wine together. We have come to the same conclusion. I think I was able to, I hope I was able to help you in any way, in anyhow. Looking forward to this. If you have any more questions, put on the group and then I can come back to you tomorrow or after tomorrow. Okay? Thank you ever so much. And I'll send it the file to Thiago, and if Thiago is kind enough and is able to do that, to put it together as a video for you to watch it later on this week, that would be amazing. Okay. Thank you very much, and ever so much for your time and your attention and listening to me, because I know that I can be over sometimes.
Thank you, Thiago.
You
I learned a
guys
lot.
are
I learned
very
a lot.
welcome. Okay.
Thank you very much, Thiago.
Thank you.
Stop now and
See you.
Bye bye, guys, friends.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Just gonna take
Up there.
cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Let's fucking drink.
Cheers.
Okay. Thank you all, guys. See you soon. Next Tuesday, 8 p.m.